Hi, my name is Aaron, and welcome back to the Cult of Cinema. For some of you, I'm sure that this is probably going to be the first video you've seen of mine since probably the last one I did, because I did get a few new subscribers. So, welcome to the channel, and hopefully you join me on my journey. I did my last video on talking about, was it time for us as collectors to change the way that we collect, the way that we curate films? And a lot of you had a lot to say on that. And I plan for my next video to be on the gray market, and that one is still coming. It's probably going to be the video after this. But I got to thinking that not only am I curious about where collecting goes in the future, but I'm curious on the flip side of it as to where companies will go. So we're going to look at a couple things. We're going to be looking at subscription services, pre-orders, and mega sales, and see how realistic those are for the future of companies and physical media, and if they harm or help. So I'm going to look at the positives and negatives of each, and make a short little video talking about it. So we know that we should or shouldn't change the way that we collect depending on how we go, but where does that leave some of the companies, especially when we do start to change the landscape? The lovely, lovely gimmicks, and the ones that have sucked me in over the years. Steelbooks, slipcovers, and mega sets. And when I say mega sets, we will not be talking about something along the lines of this. We'll be talking more along the lines of a mega set where it's just one film. And where I've already talked about that a lot, I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on that portion of it. I do think that things are changing, and as we start to realize that companies do have to charge more for some of these items, for steelbooks specifically, steelbooks is one of those that's kind of fluctuated. It's been cyclical in the way that it's been. We have seen steelbooks kind of go in and out of favor already, and they've come back. And I have some friends that are massive fans of steelbooks, and I got to say, if certain times I'll pick a steelbook over a slipcover edition if I really like that steelbook. The only issue with the steelbook is that if you don't like the art on the steelbook, you ain't changing that. I remember when Arrow put out a few different like steelbooks, and he had like these slip covers, these window box covers, and with the window box cover, you could have 4 different types of artwork. So if you didn't like one type of art, you could switch it over to another, one of 4. You had a really good chance there of getting artwork that you liked on the cover. But if you didn't like that steelbook cover, you were out of luck. So that made it a little bit easier for me to decide. Artwork decides, and cost. When costs of steelbooks tend to go up, I tend to buy a lot less of them. That is the thing that I think we're going to have for a lot of this. When price goes up, you really start to look at how much of value something adds to your collection. Slipcovers is another one that I was very much enamored with, and to be bluntly honest, I very honestly care very little about right now. A slipcover can look nice, but it's not going to make the difference in me buying a film or not. I'm not going to jump on I guess, well, Vinegar Systems was known for their slipcovers, right? So I'm not. I used to have to jump on those. Oh, the slipcover is going to be going out of print. I better grab that soon, because if I don't, then I'm going to have to buy the standard edition. And unless it had an extra disc with it or some extra special features, which only a handful of them did, most of the time the difference between a limited and a slipcover is that slipcover. And for me, if I really want the film, then the slipcover 9 times out of 10 isn't going to matter to me. Now, did I in the past buy films that I liked and jump on the slipcover because it was something that I really wanted? Yes, but I've learned more so now that you can wait. And there's another reason why, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. As for the mega sets, or like I call the chunkies, they're basically something that focuses on one film and one film alone, and it'll have with it, art cards, posters, booklets, sometimes books, and all, which is great. Now, like before I go any further, we should know that I own chunky boxes in my collection. So before I come off like hypocritical, I'm going to say yes, and I paid for them. But is it something that I would buy only for a very, very special item to me? Now, the thing is, I can't say, well, this didn't deserve a chunky box because I don't know what's going to be special to you. But going forward for me, it's more important to get the media that I want and the films that I want in my collection than worrying about whether it's got a slipcover, it's a steelbook, or it has those little extra bonuses there. Sure, there's going to be a few films that I want in that extra special edition, but I'm kind of done on taking blind buy chances on stuff like that. I think this one here is pretty much starting to kind of play itself out. The subscription services did tend to be something that a lot of people got into early on. It was a good way to catch up with a company that you really liked, to not miss out on a special or limited edition. But as companies have more like labels and sub labels and things become more fragmented, it's a lot harder to put in the amount of money as the rising cost of production causes companies to charge higher and higher prices for a subscription service to actually be able to justify the subscription service for you and well, for me personally, I got a subscription service once. I did a half year subscription service. It was for one of my favorite companies that I bought from, from Vinegar Syndrome. It was unfortunate at a time that they put out a bunch of titles that I was not really interested in, and I started to realize that this was a lot of money to put out for something that I may or may not enjoy or may not want to have in my collection. And as I was starting to like weed my collection down to the titles that I really wanted to have, I started to realize that no matter how much I loved a company or how much I thought, okay, this company really gets me, no company gets me 100. So it was a lot more pleasant for me, a lot more enjoyable for me to go and buy things from different companies on my own rather than to dive into a subscription service. They tend to be extremely expensive. Um, they they've started to become like it's a blind buy. So it's literally like taking when you're a kid and you have those surprise packages. So you paid what 25, 50 cents, maybe $1 for a surprise package. Now you're paying thousands of dollars for getting a surprise package each month. And that's wonderful if every time that's great. But sometimes it's just not going to be. And the subscription services that you've already paid for, you've paid out for. You're not there's no refund on that as far as I know. So you're stuck for whatever time that is, and that chunk of money that may have gone towards a new better film or better edition that you may have wanted to get, you may not be able to afford now because you went all in on subscription services. Now, where I think subscription services are beneficial is, say a company has just started up or has just moved out on its own, that they diving towards doing a subscription service at first. And for the company, it's really good because it enables them to get money up front to fund releases that they're planning on putting out or future releases. The problem with that on the consumer part of it is that things happen that is beyond our control, forces of nature. And like in LA recently, or just the fact that sometimes things get pushed back, sometimes better elements are found, elements are lost, things are thought to be there that aren't really there, or there's issues in getting a release out at a certain and specific time. And as consumers, we really have to honestly, like I think that we get a little upset sometimes with release times and release dates and things getting pushed back. I do try to put myself in the mindset of like what it's like on that other side as well. Like I know I've been like, oh, when's this coming out? Why haven't I got this release yet? But sometimes it does tend to get pushed back a severe amount. And if you're looking at a subscription service and you've got them for a specific title, there's always the chance that if you've picked a lower tier on a subscription service, because that's all you could afford, that one of the titles that you thought or anticipated being released within that window may not be the titles that get released within that window. If I'm looking towards, I know they're not a subscription service, but I'll just use them. And if say Severin is putting out a third box set of like a second box set of like I don't know, maybe they're doing an Emmanuel set. They're not, but let's just say they're doing another Emmanuel set, or they had the rights to a Russ Meyer set. And I said, okay, well I really want to make sure that I get that, so I'm going to subscribe to Severin, and then things get pushed back or they don't get the right elements, so it takes them longer. And I still get my 6 months or 12 months, whatever I got, but that's gone outside the 12 months. And, I've been promised like the next 6 to 12 months, but there's no rightfully way to promise me that, okay, you're going to get that title. It's not fair to the company. Then I'm just going to have to buy that separately. For me, I think subscription services are starting to slow down in the way people start to consume. I understand that we're still going to have them for a while, and I do also remember the days when subscription mystery boxes were a massive thing, and those you don't find a lot anymore. But are they okay? If they work for you, they work for you. But for me, I like to keep my money kind of flowing so that I can buy titles from the different companies that I want. And if something surprising comes out that I really, really want, if my money is tied up somewhere else, then I miss out on the release. And especially if it's a limited release I really want. So there you go. Subscription services, not for me. Now, here's a topic I'm pretty sure that AJ's Movie Palace, Matt versus Movies, and Phil with an L have also talked about, and that is pre-orders. By the way, check out all three of those channels; they're really, really good. Um, Pre-ordering to ensure that you get the release. It's a common thing. It's something that we don't just do with films, but we do with video game systems, with games in general, and with the new WWE 2K25 game coming out. I'm also considering, do I want to do that uh, again myself? Now, I'm talking about pre-ordering for film, but let's dive into last year for games for 1 second to illustrate a point. WWE 2K24 came out, and based on my previous experiences with the other releases, although I was a little iffy on a couple of the things done in the previous release, I had ordered the deluxe, big edition of WWE 2K24 for my birthday. Here's the thing, though. One of the big things about that release was that there were 6 download like DLC content packs coming out throughout the next year, and they'd done it this time so that there were spaces in between the content packs. But one of the biggest reasons to order and to get that is to have all that DLC and not have to pay for it one at a time. However, when I saw what the DLC content packs were, I was extremely disappointed, especially with the now infamous Pat McAfee pack, which was a waste of a pack. And if I had known beforehand that what the Pat McAfee pack was, I wouldn't have pre-ordered that edition. So expectations versus reality. And that is something that's important when we look at and talk about physical media. You may find a release that you want to get, because I know Severin does bundles with like books and t-shirts and pins, and if you're really interested in like a certain like genre or topic or director, then that may be something that you want to go towards and pre-order, because those things tend to sell out fairly fast. But sometimes I think the pre-order can get a little get pricey, especially in bundles of films. And it's not the fact so much the fact that there's a, that you shouldn't pre-order. It's that films have gotten a lot more expensive and costs of things have gone up. We're struggling sometimes to decide, okay, what am I doing this week? Am I back in the days when I had to pay rent before I owned my place? It was like, oh man, do I want rent and, and food, or do I want to have like rent, a little bit less food, and some movies? So the thought of having to be in that situation again, especially right now, as the cost of things tend to go up, and the cost of living tend to doesn't. Um, that's not even good grammar, I know, but we'll stick with it. Um, that's terrifying. It's a terrifying thought, and it's a terrifying thought for me as someone that talks about physical media and realizes that people watch my channel and the stuff and the titles that I talk about. It's been something that's been kind of this monkey on my back where I worry that people look at something that I got or look back in on my shelves and say, well, I got to have that, or I want to do exactly that. Um, and like I mentioned before, everybody should be collecting in the way that is most comfortable to them. Pre-orders and pre-ordering titles or bundles that are extremely expensive can be really, really rough. And sometimes I find that you can't end up like like I mentioned in the last video, you end up like paying Peter, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And that's where you get into like buying things that you may not be able to afford at the time. And if you can, that's wonderful. But can that also comes to the point. I got to remember to not put my hand near my mouth. One of my viewers actually mentioned that, which is a great comment, by the way. Constructive criticism is always a good thing. Um, but it can get pricey, and not just that, but like I just mentioned that I no longer have to worry about like the rent portion of things, but I have to still worry about the real estate portion of things. Right now, my film collection is spaced out between what I have, like it's upstairs, it is downstairs, and it is at our other apartment that's on the farm that's still in the process of like it's being made. Um, so eventually, I want to have all my media in one area. And I know when I'm looking at this, then I really have to look at, okay, what realistically can I buy before there's a bit of a trade-off? Whether it's space-wise, much more than cost-wise, but cost-wise is also a thing that you have to look into as well. So pre-orders are great if it's something that you really, really want and something that you really don't want to miss out on. But much like the subscription service, let's be honest, a lot of times, a lot of these titles are not, there's going to be the title that will go out of print every once in a while. But then there's this. Ah, yes, the sales. Fantastic ways to beef up your collection and to support companies that you really like. There was a time when you'd have to patiently, anxiously wait for that Black Friday sale or that once upon a time Criterion sale or that rare flash sale. But in the times of the modern collector, we've got the Black Friday sale, we have the halfway to Black Friday sale, we have Valentine's Day sales, we have mega flash sales, we have like March Madness sales, we have subscription sales, we have um, so many different sales coming out over the year that sometimes for people like to go back to subscribers, for instance, or people that pre-ordered things at what seemed like a lower cost at the time, they get peeved. They're like, "There's so many sales. If I would have waited, I probably would have saved more money by not subscribing or not doing a pre-order." So here we are at that point of like you still want to support your company, but you still have to put food on the table and pay rent and doctor's bills and whatnot in your own home. So sales are a fantastic, wonderful thing to promote a company and to promote their releases. And often I think sales and well done sales with a company will generate more buying from that company in the future. Do I think that for some people the mass amount of sales are going to like dissuade people from doing subscriptions and and pre-orders and that type of thing, yeah, I do. I mean, like realistically, for some people, and we know we've talked here on the channel. My good friend Malcolm has done many subscription services, and has felt the burn later on of the mega sales, where he feels like that he may not be getting the deal that he thought he was getting by paying the large chunk of money for the subscription service. Whereas for me, for instance, I feel like the sales are a great thing. I prefer them over something along the lines of a subscription service because I feel it makes it more realistic to get a wider reach. Let's be honest here. A subscription service, a massively expensive pre-order bundle is great, but it's only great for a certain subset of people. The sales and the specials that come out um, enable people that may not been able to grab something, whether it's costs, whether it's shipping, whether they just there's just certain times that they can get releases. More people can go out and avail, for instance, of a sale or of a special like a spotlight week or something like that, as opposed to people that can go out and spend like $1,200 or $1,500 on subscription services, or $400 or $500 on a pre-order bundle of like 3 or 4 titles. And it's not going to get any cheaper because the more the push is towards 4K, and the more the push is towards more gimmicky releases with it, whether it's going to be like a something along the lines of something like this, where it's like a big box and there's stuff inside it, or just that there's going to be more. I'll get this on later. More steel books and more like limited slipcovers and extra slipcovers and cards and posters and bonuses that eventually that's going to bring up the cost of certain things. So pre-order bundle costs will go up. There are companies that luckily will give you options when it comes to pre-order bundles, in that you can just pre-order the films on their own, and they'll just put different bundles and different like tiers, which is a great way to have it. Then there's other times when there's so much in like 4K releases, or there's so much put into a just what's considered like a more standard release, that it's going to be kind of pricey anyway, and you have to weigh your pros and cons when it comes to that. But there we go. That is some of the ways that companies in the future may switch things up. Do I think we're going to always have subscription services? To an extent, maybe, but I think that's something that is will eventually find its way lessened. And I mean across the board, because I think as good as a company may be, and you may kind of like hit with and gel with, there's always going to be that time when that company or that year the company may put out releases that either doubles over with something you bought previously, or it just doesn't gel with you anymore, or gel with you for a particular period of time. I think subscription services are pretty much on the lower end of things, and we're going to see less of that. It's great for companies starting out, but I don't think it's something that is viable for long periods of time. And I think companies should be aware of that and adjust their their projections, because people tend to get collectors tend to get really excited early on when something is new, when something is shiny, something exciting. But as somebody that's gone through comic collecting and card collecting, there's always a newer, shinier things coming out next month, and people move on and they go to different things. So it's important for companies to look at their at sales projections on like how much is going to be coming from subscriptions, how much is going to be coming from pre-orders, and in their mind as best as they can, because it's really hard to do, to try and project where they think that those figures are going to come out, because they can look at it again, so they can think that, okay, well, this is a title that's going to like really drive it home for us, and then have it not be that, have it be something a bit different. So companies right now there's a bit of a flux in where things are going. I think that subscription services are going to be lessened, and that companies are going to look at them as a lesser portion of their revenue. I think the same thing to a lesser extent is going to happen to pre-orders, as we're going to see more tiered pre-order lists, and sometimes the higher pre-order bundles, unless they're really, really something that is worth it, people are going to end up passing on. How, However, I do think that there is a strong future for physical media and for a lot of companies that are out there right now that are doing their damnedest to make it the best they can. And we always have to understand that the prices for us are going up, and the prices for people that are working on the titles that we want are going up as well. Whether it's producing those titles, whether it's just feeding their families too, because they, at the end of the day, they are doing that as well. They're a company that are trying to pay the rent, feed their families, and sometimes paying for like commercial estate as well. So there's a lot to look at. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think are some of the best and worst things that companies do, and some stuff that you hope change in the near future? My name's Aaron. This has been the Call to Cinema. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. So, like always, hit a subscription sloth.
Oh God. Oh, subscription sloth here. Just want to remind you that I know in the summertime especially it can be super warm and lazy. But if you're liking this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go that step further and join the Patreon, there's a link for that down below. You can super sticker, super chat, or donate. But above all, just lie back and enjoy the video, because that's what I'm going to do.